What's up, people? I'm Shaggy, the opinionated hippie, continuing my deep dive into Deep Purple's live catalog. Today, I will be discussing Come Hell or High Water and ranking it among the other 10 I believe that I have done. If you are following along, you will notice that I have skipped Gemini Suite Live, sort of the part 2 to the concerto shows. I think they performed it once back in 70. They released it in 93. Not really that familiar with that release, and I wasn't in the mood to go back and listen to it at this point, so I thought, well, I'm just going to skip that. It's not a rock album. I'll come back to it later and get it at some point. So we're skipping ahead to the next one, and that is this, Come Hell or High Water. Released in 94, tracks from 2 shows in late 93, October 93, November 93, the November 93 show being about a week and a half before Blackmore finally quit the band. During one of these shows, they were filming it, and Blackmore threw a fit, didn't want to be filmed, threw a water bottle or a cup of water at the cameraman, stormed off stage, wouldn't come back on stage till the cameraman agreed he wouldn't film him. I think the cameraman stayed on stage because I think there is video footage of this. But he threw a fit, and then eventually he quit. Even when he's throwing a fit, I'm all in on the Ritchie Blackmore experience. Like, one thing I fully came to realize as I'm listening to this, it sounds great. I like the song selection that they picked from the show. I think it's 9 songs total, maybe 10. Only one of them from their recent album, A Battle Rages On, or The Battle Rages On, was maybe the weak point. The other stuff I think is pretty good. There was another Battle Rages On song, Anya, which is, I like that. Maybe the highlight of that album. It's pretty good on here. I have the European release, apparently. When I was doing this, I wanted to make sure there weren't alternate releases. There was a US release that has additional tracks, which I don't know. I have the European release, apparently. I will talk about that when I get to that. Also, there was a box set, Live in Europe 1993, that I believe captures both of these shows in their entirety. So this really is just a sampler, but that Live in Europe 1993 thing didn't come out until like 2006, and so this came out in 94. So we will eventually get to that release and I'll compare them, but for now, we have this. Oh yeah, I'm all in on the Blackmore experience. Even when he's grumpy, even when he's throwing water bottles, even when he's fighting with the band, even when his solos get cut short, even when he's not jamming as long as he should. I'm like, yeah, it's still Blackmore. I'm still all in. His rhythm work, what he's playing when Lord's soloing, like his solos, his riffs, his licks. Like, I'm all in the Blackmore experience. I was a huge LA Kings fan, hockey, when I was a kid. Huge. And they were not very good prior to getting Gretzky. They were good. I mean, they made the playoffs a couple times, but they missed the playoffs most years. Not very good defense, usually some good scores. But I watched every single game that I could on TV. Every game I can convince my dad to go to. When I got to high school, we would drive and we could buy tickets the day of for like $5 and sit anywhere. Like, that's how dead the Kings were in LA. They got Gretzky and all that changed for the worse. But I was all in. I was there no matter what, even if they were not going to win. That's the way I feel about Blackmore. It's the way I feel about this release. And it's a good release. I'm not bagging on the release. I'm not saying that my love of Blackmore is the only thing making this enjoyable. But yeah, I don't know. It's a strange release. Opens up with Highway Star. You don't hear any Blackmore for like the first 3 minutes because he's still backstage pouting. Comes out right before the solo section. From there on in, it's a great Highway Star. His solo is just your weird Blackmore, aggressive. Is he even listening to what the rest of the band is playing? They know that he might not be listening, so they're going to make sure it works regardless. It's an exhilarating Highway Star. It's a great start. I love it. Black Knight follows. Love this song. Did not get one in any of these live releases until like for the first 6 or 7 releases. And I think the last 3 or 4 releases have all had a Black Knight. Love this song. Wish we had got more releases early on. I don't like the singing. I don't need to hear the audience going, oh, doing that. That's unnecessary. You can cut that. Just shorten the song like a good 4 minutes, nice and tight, gut punch, in, out, move on. A Twist in the Tail, probably the weak song on here, a new song from the album they were touring on. Fast-paced hard rocker. Sort of the same template of that fast-paced hard rocker they were doing on Perfect Strangers, but then that got a little distilled and weaker on House of the Blue Light. And by this point, as we got on through these albums, this version of that hard rock attack just became, I think, less and less interesting. This is probably one of the least interesting of these. It's not bad. They're a great band. It's competent. It's just the songwriting I don't think is up there. Fantastic Perfect Strangers. Sound solid. Blackmore's making all kinds of cool noises. He's got great fills. We get a really, really, really nice Lord solo. We get the Gethsemane closing. I don't want to taste your poison. Really nice. Like that Jesus Christ Superstar, JCS quote, nod. Then we get one of the reasons I absolutely love this release. And I'm pretty sure I know we get more of these down the line. But the first one for me in this, Anyone's Daughter. Absolutely amazing. Don't think they had ever played it prior to 93, so this is one of the first. And then I don't think they played it again after 95. I think they only played it for like this era. And I think we have another one coming up in a release. I'm pretty sure there's one more live one that was released. I don't think they brought it back later, right? Am I missing? Am I thinking of another song? But I think this is one of the rare. But it sounds great. It just, the vibe is great. They don't try to overdo it. They don't try to get hammy with it. It's almost sincere. It's almost understated. Absolutely perfect. Great choice. Love it. We get A Child in Time. I'm here for every Child in Time. The really sweet part of this is right after the vocals, before like the long jam section, there's that moment where like Glover is kind of laying down kind of a slower, funkier groove, and Blackmore comes in with some really nice slide guitar. It's not a very long section, and it kind of sets up the hyper fast-paced solo section, but that little like interlude between the vocals and the long jam, it's just beautiful on this, and it kind of makes everything that follows just taste that much sweeter. It's tight. It's lean. It's not the most over-the-top Child in Time, but it's enjoyable. I mean, it's Child in Time. It's absolutely great. Anya is next, another new song. This was one of the better ones. This is from The Battle Rages On, right? I'm pretty sure that's on that album. It was one of the better songs on there. It kind of mines that Kashmir, Perfect Strangers vibe, that, you know, do-do-doo, do-do-doo. It's not quite as do-do-doo-ty as that. But it kind of goes into that vibe. No, Anya was on here. It kind of goes into that groove, just not as hard. The only thing I don't like about it is there's some keyboard sounds that I really don't like. Just the very early 90s tone of them. But there are some really cool riffs in here. The beginning is a little bit longer. I think it's like twice as longer. The beginning of this, which is kind of a gentler beginning, is longer here than it is on the album. And that's more effective because you do get sort of this drop into the main song. And by having that sort of drawn out beginning, the drop is just a little more effective. It's got some nice driving energy. We get a really nice long Ritchie Blackmore solo with like a breakdown, so Blackmore gets a spotlight. It's a good 12 plus minutes of music. I think it's really phenomenal. So it's good. One of the newer songs that you kind of look forward to hearing. Then we get a Speed King, has your typical going back and forth trading licks. We get a burn tease throw in there. Kind of a short Speed King for some of the other ones we've seen. It's about 7.5 minutes long, but it's them messing around. I think it's a land of 1,000 dances. We get a little quote like that at the end. So they're kind of fooling around. This is kind of like, you know, they're loose, quoting things, soloing, going back and forth, a little more playful. And then the whole thing closes out with a Smoke on the Water. Some nice messing around, chill jam. Then Blackmore just goes into that dun, 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 like it is a nasty opening riff. Like he is hitting this thing hard. Also, he sings something else. What goes on before this? In that chill jam, sings... Oh, it kind of reminds me, the opening jam kind of reminds me of the beginning of Dire Straits' Tunnel of Love, particularly on Alchemy Live. And I keep expecting Ian to walk up and go, "Song's called the Tunnel of Love!" And then them to drop into that. That doesn't happen. Instead, Blackmore drops into Smoke on the Water. But that beginning kind of reminds me about that. And then, unfortunately, when all is said and done, it devolves into a sing-along at the end, which we don't need audience sing-alongs. Maybe in the moment at the time it's enjoyable. Even that's questionable. I don't enjoy them. So that's the release I have. I absolutely love it. It's a really efficient, I don't know how long it is. It's long. It's really good. I don't think, other than the twist in the tail, which isn't bad, no real weak spots. The songs that are on the US release and the Japanese release, there's a 4.5 minute lazy, which is your typical. Probably, I'm going to imagine there's no Lord solo. I imagine Blackmore starts off and then they go into a little breakdown in the beginning before they jam it out. 2.5 minutes Space Truckin'. Don't know what that's about. And your typical less than 2 minute Woman from Tokyo. So those are the three songs that are missing. Less than 8 minutes of music. So doesn't look fine the time, other than Lazy, which is probably just your really efficient blues jam. Space Truckin' and Women from Tokyo just look like, that's going to be interesting. Let me know how interesting. I don't know why I don't have that. I don't even think I knew I didn't even think I knew there was another release to this until just this morning. But I like this release. I enjoy this release. This is a good listen. I don't think it's going to blow anybody out of the water. Don't think it's their best release, which is, if I had to rank it among all the others, I have it down at number 7 behind Nobody's Perfect. Nobody's Perfect gets the nod because I was at one of the shows that the songs come from. So I always, back as an 18-year-old, was like, yeah, I was at these shows, and it's longer and it has more stuff. But yeah, I would put it back at number 7. Sounds good. Playing's good. Blackmore is amazing. But yeah, that's where I'd put it, at number 7. All right, that's all I got. Thanks for watching. Give me your thoughts on this album. Subscribe, like, share, comment, do all those things. And go listen to this album and go listen to Deep Purple. And yeah, Richie Blackmore, people. Peace. Talk to you later.